Hi there, how are you today? I hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome back to our blog. In this video, we're going to talk about context, which basically makes hard things easier to understand. Being able to get meaning from context is an extremely useful skill for your exam and for real life. So, if you're preparing for the Cambridge Advanced exam or you're interested in learning more about it, then I highly suggest you watch this video as well as the others in the series. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. The average English speaker manages to amass around 60,000 words. Now, this might sound pretty intimidating to an English learner, but believe me, it's not as scary as it sounds. Truth be told, it needs to be broken down into active vocabulary words, which we use, which only comes down to 20,000, and that leaves us with about 40,000, which are passive words. So these are words we understand, but we don't use. Many have tried to popularize methods that claim to focus on a person's most immediate or urgent language needs. Such was the case of Globish. Have you heard about it? Well, it's a portmanteau of global and English, and it's basically a simplified version of English spoken by non-native speakers that consists of only the most common words and phrases in English and uses phonetic spelling. Now, the language learning journey in English is a long one. It's supposed to take 2,000 hours, more or less, to get from A1 to C1. So wanting to simplify and speed up the language learning process seems logical. I mean, not everyone has the ability, the time, or even the stamina to pursue learning a new language. I'm sure you can see why people found this project appealing, but it was a limited solution to the broader issues that face a language learner. For instance, you might only need between 300 and 600 words to survive, and please let me emphasize survive in an English-speaking country. But then you'd still be short 400 more words in order to have a normal conversation, which is the very least a learner would want to do. It doesn't begin to accommodate the language you need for business, for your studies, for meaningful conversations, and so on. Ever since I was a child, I've hated loud sounds. I'm very sensitive to any loud noises. So, for example, the sound of someone chewing loudly drives me crazy. Like, I can't take it. I have to leave the room or put on headphones to deal with it. And I always thought that I was just a bit weird. But then one day, my friend commented that I was such a misophone. And I said, a what now? So it turns out that a misophone is a person who suffers from hypersensitivity to sounds, like me. So I suffer from misophonia. Who knew? Even as a native speaker, I'm always learning new language in my own language. So we need to take a long, hard look at the face of that issue and accept that learning vocabulary never, ever ends. And if you think it does, well, then you'll only disappoint yourself. So naturally, you should ask yourself how to go about this problem. And my advice would be, make context your best friend. You're probably wondering what on earth I mean by this. So we might as well start from the top. Words in isolation lack meaning. And this is particularly true if we are encountering a new word for the first time. For example, if you see the word balmy, without any context, without any clues, do you have any idea what this word means? Well, I guess not. But how about if we put this word into a sentence? Does that help? For example, last week the weather was unusually balmy. Why was it so warm? Wasn't it strange for this time of the year? So from the context, we can figure out that balmy means that it's warm, that the weather is warm and perhaps nice and warm or warmer than usual for that time of the year. You can also, from the context, work out the part of speech. So balmy is describing the weather, which means it must be an adjective. Whenever we use a language, whether we are speaking, listening, reading, or writing, we always do it in some kind of context. Language without context lacks meaning. And so basically, it isn't effective communication. That's why you need to make connections to make sense of vocabulary, especially since single words are likely to have several different meanings. For example, the word wave, which is both a verb and a noun. So, I'm at the concert, but I can't see you. Can you wave at me? So there, wave means to move your hand from side to side. Do you think there will be another wave of the virus in autumn? So that's a large number of a bad kind of thing. Where would you be able to surf the perfect wave? So that is that large body of water that moves across the ocean. Or how do you get your hair to wave like that? So that is to make your hair a little bit curly. As these examples show, context refers to the events and the circumstances that surround a word, because language doesn't take place in a vacuum, and it cannot be separated from its context. So as you can see, it could be quite a daunting task if you attempt to learn a list of the different meanings of a single word. You could obviously make these Quizlet type flashcards with all the possible meanings of a word, and it might work for you, but it would be really time consuming, and it might get a little bit repetitive or a little bit boring in the end. The rule of thumb is simple. The more meaningful connections we make, the more likely we are to remember the meanings, and context will help you to make those connections. So, phonetically speaking, English can be quite complex, as I'm sure you well know, and we might have to rely on context to understand which word the speaker is using. For example, in the case of the number to and the adverb to, take away context from the equation, and these isolated words would be very difficult to identify. Let's take a look at an example. After lunch, I bought 2 ice creams because my friend wanted one too. So here, once these 2 words are put into context, the meaning becomes extremely clear. So the words to and to from the previous example are homophones. So these are words that have the same sound but different spelling and different meaning. So, are you up for a homophone challenge? This icon shows a meeting or tries to elicit the verb to meet. So, for example, how often do you meet your colleagues outside of work? Can you think of a homophone that sounds the same phonetically but has a different meaning? That's right, it's the noun meat. For example, have you ever tried crocodile meat? These icons all represent homophone pairs. So your challenge is to identify what these homophones are and write sentences or questions using both in the comment section below. We'll give feedback to the first or most interesting commenters. Good luck. What do you think? Do you think that the words chance, opportunity, and possibility are synonyms? Do they have the same meaning? Well, without a given context, it is very difficult to clarify or understand how they might differ in meaning, especially if you look at examples like these. I have the chance to learn more with this job. This job will be an opportunity to learn more. There are more possibilities to learn at this job. So, at this point, you might assume, quite rightly, that these words are interchangeable. But are they? Have a look at this example. What do you think? Take chances, make mistakes. Welcome the opportunities that knock on your door, and so the possibilities will be endless. So you can see quite clearly from this example that when we start to change the context, then the differences between the words become more apparent. So once again, it's clear that when it comes to understanding the meaning of words or the different meanings of words, then context is king. Making context your best friend will allow you to cope when there's no dictionary or no Google Translate around to save you. So that is especially useful for exams. That being said, getting meaning from context does require good language knowledge. So this would not be an option to you if you were a beginner or an elementary student. But then again, you probably wouldn't be watching this video if that were the case. And now I know it can be rather annoying to keep bumping into the same word over and over, and you kind of understand, but you don't truly get the actual meaning. So never get rid of your dictionary. Do keep it close, but instead try to guess the meaning of the word first, and then check in the dictionary whether your educated guess was correct. Learning to come to terms with ambiguity is key in language learning because words have several meanings. Ambiguity. Do you know this word? Well, as you could perhaps see from the context, it's the fact of something having more than one possible meaning, which can cause confusion. So we've come up with a 5-step plan to help you become more confident and capable of working out meaning from context. Let's take a look. Step 1. Identify the part of speech. You may not love this grammar side of things, but I'm afraid you do need some background knowledge to be able to deduce meaning. So, is the word you're looking for a verb, an adjective, an adverb, etc.? Step 2. Look at the words or sentences around the unknown word. Can you find a synonym or an antonym in the text to help you understand the meaning? Step 3. When possible, break it down. What is the root word? Can you identify any affixes? So, in other words, can you find a prefix or a suffix? Step 4. Give it meaning. Just throw accuracy out of the window. Let it be vague, let it be questionable, but let it allow you to continue to navigate the text. So don't get too obsessed with understanding the exact meaning of the word. The gist or the general idea could be enough. And step 5, try a synonym in the sentence to see if it makes sense. Let's take a look at one example. Dark clouds appeared, and a few minutes later, everyone at the football match was completely drenched. So, do you know what drenched means? Well, from context, you can probably guess that the state of being drenched is a consequence of those dark clouds that we mentioned right at the beginning of the sentence. And what but water falls down from a cloud? So we can conclude that they are probably very wet. And indeed, that is the definition of drenched. So that's going to do it. I hope you're feeling more confident about context. If you feel like you got something out of this video, please go ahead and click the like button or share the post on your socials. And don't forget to leave your answers to the Homophone challenge in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Well, have a good rest of your day, and I hope I'll be seeing you in the next video.